Hello and welcome to this Meet Your Future session. In these sessions, we hear from people in different roles and you have the opportunity to ask them your questions about what they do and how they got to where they are. My name is Jamie and I'm your host today. I work for the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and it's my job to help young people find out more about the different careers and options that are available out there to them. One of the ways that you can do that is on the GMACS website, gmacs.co.uk, which has lots of information for young people who live in Greater Manchester. Today, though, as part of National Careers Week, we are going to hear from Nicola O'Brien, who works in business development at EQUANS. EQUANS is a company that builds, extends and improves buildings and homes. Nicola is going to tell you a little bit about what she does, what business development is, and how she ended up doing that for a living. Make sure you're paying attention because there is a quiz at the end. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat and we will have time to answer some of them at the end. I am now delighted to hand over to Nicola O'Brien.
Thanks, Jamie. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicola O'Brien, as Jamie said. I am the Business Development Manager at EQUANS. I've put together an agenda today, which will guide us through the next 45 minutes or so. So I'll start off introducing myself, a bit of background about myself, an introduction to the company I work for, EQUANS. We'll look at what business development is. We'll look at my journey. So how did I end up in the business development role? We'll look specifically at what the link is between English and business development. We'll cover the top 5 BD skills. And then if you are interested at the end of this presentation in a career in business development, how you could go about working in business development. And then we'll end with a summary and an opportunity for you to ask questions. This feels a little bit strange because when I've delivered sessions like this in the past, they have been face to face. So it's a little bit strange that I can't see any of you, but hopefully it'll work out. Okay. Sorry, I'm just waiting for it to move on to the next slide. There we go. So as I say, I'm Nicola O'Brien. I have one husband. I've been together for 23 years now. I'm married for 13 years. I've got 2 children, a daughter who is 14 years old and a son that's just turned 10. I've got 3 dogs, and this is probably a good time to say that there is a risk that someone might knock at my door at any time during the next hour and my dogs become very noisy. So apologies if you do hear the dogs barking over the next hour. You can see the dog line on the floor, the chocolate Labrador's Coco. She's 12 and a half now. We've got Chloe, who is 9. She's the golden retriever, and the baby of my family, which is the German Shepherd. I say he's the baby, he's pretty much as tall as me when he's on his back legs. And I've been working in business development now for 15 years. And I will tell you about my journey. And I must say, I didn't even know what business development was until I was about 29, 30 years old. So it wouldn't surprise me if you've not heard of business development as a career. But hopefully you understand what it is at the end of this 45 minutes. There we go. So now I'll just explain a little bit about EQUANS as an organisation. It's not the easiest of names to say and people don't understand what it means. Some very clever marketing people came up with the name. So if we break it down, we've got ANS is the answer to the equation. So when we're working with clients, they often have problems or they have targets that they need to meet and they don't know how they're going to achieve that. So the idea is that here at EQUANS, we will have the answers to help them achieve the targets and to solve problems. So that's how EQUANS came about. And we're a large organisation. We're a global organisation, 12 billion euros. We've got over 74,000 employees across the globe. And hopefully, if we get there, we go on to the next slide, you'll see all the countries that we work in. So we're a large, quite complex organisation. And I intend to just explain about the part of the company I work for, which is EQUANS Regeneration. And as Jamie said before, the easiest way to describe that is that we're a contractor. We're working on buildings and homes, roughly about 10,000 a year. We've got over 4,000 employees working for the EQUANS Regeneration part of the business. And I cover the Northwest, so I am purely focused on the second colour that you can see on the diagram, the green colour, dark green under Scotland. I focus on that area of the country, and we've got a team of about 300 employees within the Northwest. But we also have very similar teams in the central region, so the Midlands, and also the South. So within the Northwest, we have 4 key areas of the business. We've got our education and public buildings. So that is where we might build new schools, or we might have a school that has 3 classrooms that need knocking into 1. They might want to extend the school to create a new canteen, or build just a whole new part of the school. So we recently in Blackpool, we built a whole new section which was for science and technology. So anything to do with public buildings that local authorities might own and education. We've then got 2 teams that work for the housing division. So we've got refurbishment and sustainability. So that is about helping our clients. So normally housing associations, so organisations that own properties and rent them to people. We help them to keep those properties in a really good condition. So that might be putting new kitchens in, new bathrooms in. It might be doing external wall insulation, so improving the look of the building on the outside, to making homes more energy efficient. And we also help clients to build properties. So Boris has set targets around building a lot of new homes. A lot of our clients are trying to help achieve that target. So we're building homes for housing associations and for local authorities. And I am business development covering the housing sector, so I mainly focus on refurbishment and sustainability and new build. And we also have the renewables section. That's slightly different. They're based in the Northwest, but they cover the whole of the country, and they install solar panels, not on houses, mainly huge solar farms, and also over water as well. So maybe working with the likes of United Utilities, Southern Water, putting solar panels over reservoirs to generate electricity. So in essence, we're a contractor which is focused on improving buildings and building new for homes and for people to work in as well. So why we're here today, what is business development? As I say, business development, I didn't know what it was up until about the age of 29 when I got a business development manager role. I've tried to explain to my children what business development is, and they still don't seem to get it, or they're just not interested. I hope you don't feel the same way at the end of this session. So I've got really just a very simple definition to start us off. Business development is all around building relationships with clients. So building relationships with the people we offer services to. So in my world, that is working with councils and with housing associations. Whilst we're building relationships, we're talking to people, we find out what opportunities there are for us. So for example, I might go and meet with a housing client, and I might find that they intend to put new kitchens in 10,000 of their homes. So that for us as a business is an opportunity. And then hopefully by building on that relationship, showing them what we do as a business, why we're better than other contractors, because there's lots of other contractors out there, we will then hopefully win work, and then we grow the business. So that is in essence what business development is. It's around building relationships, then finding business opportunities and winning work. It is different to sales, where sales might be you go and buy a new car, you buy a car, you drive off, and that's it. This is about long-term relationships. So my journey, how did I end up in business development? Like you, in school, I was working on my GCSEs. My plan was to go into journalism. So English was one of my top subjects. I wanted to work for newspapers, and ultimately I wanted to produce documentaries, television programmes. And really my inspiration, the person who inspired me to look at that was my uncle, because he seemed to have a really exciting job and he seemed to make a lot of money as well. So for me, that's the career path that I wanted to take when I was in school. As a result, I chose to do media studies, psychology, English, and I had to do general studies as A-levels. Still fully with the intention of going to university when I started off at college. But I think college was fantastic. They were the best years for me. School was okay, but college was fantastic opportunity. Loved the freedom that came with it, loved the socialising that came with it, but did decide that I needed a break from education and wanted to go into the world of work before going on to university. At that time, I don't know if these opportunities are still available, but there was paid work placement. So I had a interview, a chat with some people, and they placed me in a solicitor's in Liverpool city centre, where I think you got paid about £45 a week. And really it was general admin jobs. So it was making cups of tea and coffee for people, it was filing, it was covering reception when the receptionist was on her lunch. And I was just getting used to that world of work and making your way to work every day, making your way home, engaging with lots of different people, helping people in the office. And what that gave me was the opportunity to learn some new skills, which took me on to my next role. So that same agency that helped me with that work placement, they made me aware of a permanent job opportunity with proper salary. I had to go for an interview. It was very scary. I'd never had a formal interview before. I did have a job at the time. I was working in a pub, but anyone who's worked in a pub before or is now, you know, it's all very informal when you take on a job like that, or it certainly was at the time when I was working there. So I went to this interview, which did feel scary, even though the two ladies who interviewed me were lovely, and I got the job. So it was full time. It was 9 till 5:30, sometimes 7:30 till 4:30. And with that job, I learned an awful lot. So I was on reception. We had what was a switchboard at the time. So all calls that came into the solicitors came through me and the other lady who was on reception. We worked for solicitors who would phone us, and they would want airplanes booked, they would want taxis booking, they'd want hotels booking for them. I worked my way to a position where I was trusted, and we had office juniors, and I took on the management of the 5 office juniors. So at that time I was learning to talk to lots of different people at different levels, which I didn't know then, but it's obviously a really good platform for what I've gone on to do in business development. So again, I wasn't actively looking, but my mum seen an advert in a newspaper for a administrative role, and it was near Liverpool Airport, which is where I'm from. So it was local to me. I could have walked to work if I wanted to. So I went along for that interview. As I say, I went along for an admin position. The interview seemed to go very, very well, and they said that they had a position for a trainee personal assistant, which they hadn't been able to fill. They'd interviewed people and hadn't found someone who had what they were looking for, and asked me if I wanted to take on that role. So I did. So as a personal assistant, basically I was working for a director. You were managing her diary. We used to have board meetings, so you'd have all those senior people in the organisation, and you'd have to get the papers ready for them. You'd have to work to time scales, deadlines. She had lots of senior people that reported into her, so I had to work with them. I had to coordinate a diary. I'd be writing letters to solicitors on her behalf. And she was excellent, the lady that I worked for. She was helping to develop my skills and pass more and more on to me, which wasn't normally the role of a PA. And after quite a short amount of time, I wasn't the trainee PA. I was a full-time personal assistant. I then had a trainee who worked for me, so that gave me further experience in managing people. And also it gave me an opportunity to learn more skills. So I completed typing qualifications, shorthand qualifications, also bookkeeping qualifications, all things that the organisation paid for during this time as well. So this was around the age of 19, 20. I passed my driving test, which obviously gave me a lot of freedom, and again, you know, critical to where I am today, because I couldn't have the job that I've got without having a driving licence. And I bought my first house, so a lot was going on around that time. And then the person I was working for, she left the organisation, she moved on. And again, just talking about relationships, she was the person I worked for, but I am still in touch with her now, and we're really good friends over 20 years on. So there came an opportunity. I wasn't a PA anymore, so I became a project manager, and we were going through a time in the organisation, a housing organisation, where we were being inspected, and it was a very important inspection. So I was working with one of the senior managers, preparing for that. And again, it was about using those skills that as a receptionist, as an administrator, as a personal assistant, around being organised, working to deadlines, coordinating people, engaging with lots of different people to do different tasks and make sure they're doing them on time. So that was again a promotion through this organisation, and then I was offered the role of quality manager. And all of these things I hadn't planned for. It was just opportunities that had come along, and I took them, and I worked really hard, and I tried to make sure whatever I promised to do, I made sure I delivered on that. So I became the quality manager in the housing association that I was working for. So this was probably, I'd been there probably about 3-4 years now. So I was about 23, 24 years old at this time. So I was the quality manager, and also the marketing officer went off on leave. So I also took on the role of marketing. So now I was looking at the business in terms of continuous improvement. So what were we doing well as an organisation, and how could we build on that? What were we not doing well, and how were we going to improve? So I would hold regular meetings with all the senior managers. We talk about the performance of their team, how we need to do better. So it might be, as a housing association, you've got to collect rent off people. If we weren't collecting enough of that rent, people weren't paying. Working with that manager to find out why people weren't paying, how could we support people? So very much around problem solving, but also working with customers as well. So part of my role was equality and diversity, about celebrating equality and diversity and being aware of people's different needs. So I was working with the community, holding events. I set up a tenant auditors, so where people living in our homes will come and audit our business and tell us what we were doing well and what we weren't doing well. So again, engaging with lots of different people. Rather than collating board reports, I was now going to board meetings, delivering board reports and presenting information to the board, as well as all the managers. So very much around communication. Every role that I've had has involved communicating with people verbally, pulling presentations together, pulling reports together, sending emails. So again, qualifications in mind, the company gave me the opportunity to complete a diploma in management. So even though I hadn't gone on to university, this diploma in management was almost the equivalent to a degree. So I worked on that. So that was an afternoon a week and an evening a week. And then during that time, when that was all happening, I took some time off because I had a baby, went on maternity leave. I also moved house in that time as well. So there was a lot going on, as you can imagine. But when I was on maternity leave, there were some changes in the business that I wasn't comfortable with. And I felt it was time maybe for me to move on. So I was looking for a role, and I noticed an advert for a business development manager. Didn't know what business development manager was, not really come across it before, but it was for a housing association that was quite local. I was already working for a housing association, so I understood how it operated as a business. And when I read the job description, it had marketing in there. So when I was I was doing the marketing role as well as quality manager. I was putting the content up for the website. I was doing all the PR, so writing the press releases. So ironically, even though I didn't become a journalist, I was writing the press releases to pass on to journalists and to put into to newspapers and to magazines. Also, I was having to do some of the social media at that time. Though social media wasn't used at that time as much like it is now. So when I was reading the job description, it was talking about continuous improvement. It was talking about communicating with people, being able to present to large groups of people. And I'd done an awful lot of that when I was working at the the other housing association. So I went for this job interview. It was a really long day. I was on maternity leave. I'd been off on maternity leave for about 5-6 months. I turned up for the interview 8:30 in the morning. I didn't leave till 6:30 at night. I had to do maths tests, I had to do English tests. I had to pull together presentations with a group of people I didn't know, and then deliver the presentations. It was hard work, it was intense, but I got the job. So another housing association, but this was where I was introduced to business development. And basically the company I work for was a housing association, but they had their own team of operatives that worked on houses. So they fitted the kitchens and bathrooms, they fixed the leaky taps. So they had their own, they didn't use a contractor, they had their own people, 300 operatives or tradespeople who were doing the work in people's homes. And this housing association wanted to offer that service to other local authorities and other housing associations, and that's where I come in. They wanted me to go to talk to other housing associations, local authorities, and say, we can provide this service for you. We can send people to your homes and do a really high quality job. So that was my introduction to business development. Because we were quite a small senior management team, and you know, it was a promotion for me because it was going on to the senior management team, and it was quite a salary increase as well. I was delivering presentations to groups of 20 people from other housing associations, but again, because of my experience in quality of diversity, I was doing a lot of in-house training, so bringing in the 300 trained tradespeople and talking to them about customer care, talking to them about the importance of winning work and working for other clients to keep us busy, keep us in jobs. So I was really thrown into the business development role. And I was very lucky because, again, I had the opportunity to complete another qualification. So a couple of qualifications. I completed ILM in coaching and also a diploma in marketing. So even though I've not gone to university, again, following college, I've gone back to college again to complete further qualifications. I also built up my team. So I ended up managing all the admin team who were processing over 20,000 repairs, so, and also the estimators, so people who were pricing work that we wanted to secure. I was managing them as well, so I did have managers reporting into me, and they would manage the actual teams. So it was an experience where I learned to manage a lot of people. I was juggling a lot of projects. I was working with a lot of different people. And it was great. The company was changing, it was growing, and I learned an awful lot. But then after 10 years, I had another baby. There was lots happening, and I just decided I was ready for a change. And that's when I ended up at EQUANS. So a very different business development role. The role I was doing at the Housing Association, not only was it business development in terms of going out and meeting with clients and speaking to clients, you also often have to take part in what's called a tender exercise. So if you want to win work, if you want to install 10,000 kitchens for a client, you have to go into a competition with other contractors. So you have to fill in quality questions. So they'll ask you questions about how you're going to deliver this service and why, try and understand why you're better than another contractor. Why should they choose you? And then the other element is around pricing that. So how much will it cost the client to deliver this work? So I ended up doing an awful lot of bid writing, and I was starting to spend, I'd say, 3.5 days a week sat in an office writing documents, and that wasn't me. I wanted to be out there talking to people, meeting new people, talking about what we do and understanding what was important to those clients. So that was one of the key things I was looking for when I was looking for a new role. So again, I was approached by a recruitment agency. I was on off looking for a new job. I'd start, then I'd stop because I wasn't unhappy where I was. But then I was approached with this opportunity. It sounds like a fantastic company, very focused on delivering a quality service, really focused on customers and getting it right, and admitted where they'd made mistakes in the past and how they were learning from them. So I decided to take on the role. again, very different because I wouldn't have anybody reporting to me at all. So the only person I'm managing is myself. And it was enabled me to really just focus on the business development. I wasn't getting involved in training for operatives or putting performance frameworks in place to manage people's performance and behaviour. So this was very focused on winning work, getting to know clients and winning work. So that's where I am now. I am not completing any qualifications at the moment, and I haven't for a while, and it's something I'm very conscious of. So I am thinking of getting some support in terms of coaching and mentoring, someone to help me look at my strengths and weaknesses and what I'd like to develop, how I'd like to grow as a person. And that will help me decide what qualification to do, because I don't just want to do a qualification for a qualification's sake. It needs to be meaningful and help me in my development. So that is my journey. I think, as I say, a lot of it has been opportunity, but all of it has been around communicating with people in one way or another. So, sorry, just waiting for the slide to. So business development, there's a bit of background about me there, which did bring out some of the business development elements. This slide is really to give you more of a flavour of what is included in business development. My role is to promote what EQUANS does as a business. My role is to make sure people in our world, in the market that we operate in, know who we are, know what we do, and know why we're better than our competitors. So a lot of that is around working with our marketing team. So with our marketing team, we can make sure that we have got a website that tells people what we do. We can make sure we're putting press releases out, telling people about our successes. So when we win work, when we deliver successful projects, and also about going to events, networking events, being seen in front of people. So, for example, there's a housing conference, a really big housing conference that happens every year. So I work with the marketing team to organise a drinks event. So people come along, they come and have a drink, they have something to eat. We have a chat. It's not formal, it's not a sell, it's just come along, meet us, let's get to know each other. We've got, there's an event happening in April where 150 property professionals are attending. I'm going to go along to that and talk about what EQUANS are doing as a business to help companies make their buildings more energy efficient, because that's an absolute key thing to what we want to do. So that is just to help people, give them information about what they need to do. And that leads on to really a key part of what the job is, which is research, which is something that you probably do as part of your English qualification. In business development, you've got to understand what is happening in the marketplace. So you have to understand that the likes of Boris is saying we need to build more homes, but the governments are saying, oh, sorry, it's reflected. The governments are saying that we need to be zero carbon by 2050. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to make our homes and our offices and our schools more energy efficient? And at EQUANS, that's an absolute key thing that we want to help our clients do. So I've got to understand what's happening in the market. I've got to understand how we can help clients to achieve that. So I need to know where the funding is available. I've got to understand changes in legislation. So it's constantly reading information, looking at press releases, looking at social media and being aware of what is happening and how that will impact on our clients. And then there's also the very specific research. So once I understand that, I've got to go and speak to clients. I've got to speak to housing associations and let them know what we're doing. And that can be quite difficult. So if there's a housing association that we've never delivered work for in the past, they don't know who we are, I need to try and get some of their time. Everyone is busy. Everyone is always busy. What they don't want to do is meet with Nicola O'Brien from EQUANS, works for a contractor and is going to sell at me for an hour. They haven't got the time. They haven't got the interest. So I've got to send an email. Usually it's an email. You won't have people's telephone numbers. That is engaging, is interesting, where people are going to say, I actually do need to spend some time with Nicola O'Brien because she can help me. So you do your research to understand that company. You do your research to understand what their challenges are, and you try and word the email in a particular way. So, for example, energy efficiency is a huge thing. In the housing world, there's quite a lot of funding available at the moment. We've built up a team that can help people to get that funding, a team that really understands how we can make their properties more energy efficient. So now I will send an email to a client and say, we know that you've got to make your homes more energy efficient. We know that that isn't easy, but we have a solution. We can help you. And that actually is really working. People who may have ignored me in the past, and people do ignore your emails, ignore your calls, it's getting the foot through I'm managing to get my foot through the door and get in front of people. Once you're in front of people, it's what we talked about in one of the earlier slides. It's then about building that with those relationships. When I have that hour with someone, it is about them liking me, about them trusting what I'm saying, believing in what I'm saying, them wanting to find out more, so I can then, as business development, I don't have to be an expert in everything, but I do need to know the right people that can give the information. So then when we build the relationship, I can then bring more people along that can share more information with the clients. So a very quick example of that is, we had a client, I met with them a couple of times, general conversations, found out that they had 160 properties that they needed to improve. I brought people in that has got the experience of doing that, that can help them make the homes energy efficient, could help them write funding bids. And we've now secured that contract, nearly £5 million worth of work. We didn't have to tender for it, which is the mini competitions that you have to do. We've secured the job. There is certain things that you've got to do, and I won't bore you with that now, because that's a whole different conversation. But we have been awarded that work, and that is from a conversation, an initial chat to let people know what we do. Another key part of what I've had to do as business development, but not in the role that I do now, is around bid writing. So I was talking before about writing tenders. So that is where, excuse me, you've got a competition and you have got to say how you're going to deliver a project. So it's about, as I said before, you've got questions and you've got to answer those questions. It is really difficult because quite often there are word limits in that. So you might write a fantastic answer. We are a fantastic contractor. We have worked on 20,000 homes, put new kitchens and bathrooms in. And we provide an excellent service where customers were 100% happy with our work. Which is great and will sell everything, but then they say you've only got 1,000 words. I've wrote 2,000 words, and then there is the art of being able to get as much information across that the client wants to hear, but in the word limit, and there is art to that, and it takes a lot of time. In fact, it can take as much time editing your own work as it does to write the answer in the first place. So being able to edit and read through your documents and really answer a question is very much part of business development, though I'm lucky enough to work for a large enough company that has a dedicated team to do that now. Another key thing that I probably should have said around the building relationships is, it isn't about me talking and saying what we do. It's very much about listening to the client, which is a good thing really, because obviously my voice doesn't last for 45 minutes, so it's a good job I listen to the client more than they have to listen to me. So what I do is I listen to what the client wants. As I said before, it's about understanding what do they need to deliver, what targets have they got, what problems have they got. What I can then do, as I say, bring the right people in, but when we're writing bids, when we're having to compete for work, I use that information, give that information to the bid team to make sure it's a very tailored response. So all of this is about raising our profile, letting people know who we are, understanding your market, understanding your clients, listening to what your clients want, what your clients need, what's important to them, and making sure we provide them with solutions based on what they've told us. And then the very last thing on there is around managing people. As I say, I've managed people before. I don't now. I don't have people reporting to me, but you are always managing people. So, for example, we're looking at lots of opportunities, and I've got to make sure when a tender comes in or when a client wants us to deliver work, I've got to make sure people are ready to support them, that they know that we're going to have to put time and effort into securing that work with that client. I've got to make sure our specialist teams will help me to help that client. So that is very much about not just directly managing people, but also working with your internal teams as well as external people. So what's English got to do with it? Well, hopefully I've alluded to that a few times as we've gone through the presentation. It's very much about listening and talking to people. It's about reading and understanding information. So when teachers are telling you to listen properly, when they're telling you to read the information properly, it's absolutely key. Because when you're doing your job, you need those skills. And also when you're doing different types of writing through your English qualification, so you might be writing emails, reports, tenders, presentations. There are different styles that you've got to use for different audiences and to get different messages across. So for example, when I'm writing an email trying to get that introduction to someone, I'm trying to persuade them to give me their time. The information has to be concise, interesting, factual. They haven't got time to read a huge big email, so I need to try and condense my message into a couple of sentences, fairly short and snappy, that they'll read and then they'll reply to. And really, in my role as business development, there's absolutely nothing better than when you've sent an email to someone and then you get a meeting with them. The only thing that's better is obviously when you win the work. So this is about my top 5 skills. This is, in my personal opinion, what are the skills you need for business development. So the first one is what we said before, able to listen, to really listen to what people are saying to you. Excellent communication skills, so whether that's verbal communication skills or written. It probably does help if you haven't got a really squeaky voice when you're talking to people, but sorry, that's what you've had to put up with today. You've got to be self-motivated. In business development, you do not have someone standing over you telling you what to do. I have weekly meetings with my manager. If we get the chance, we try to sit down weekly, but you need to control what you are doing on a day-to-day basis. So all the stuff that I did previously in terms of being a working in administration, a receptionist, a PA, all skills where I've had to learn how to manage myself, they were all really important. But also in terms of that self-motivation, you need to want to win, because nobody is there telling you what to do and telling you how to win the work. And at the end of the day, getting the meetings in front of people, only you can make that happen. So you've got to be very self-motivated. You've got to want to win the work and get in front of people. You've got to be resilient and determined. It is part of the job being ignored. It is part of the job being rejected. The amount of emails I will send and don't get anywhere. There was actually a client I was trying to get in front of, and it was the housing association I used to work for. So it should have been easy. It wasn't. I must have sent 6 emails over quite a long period of time. I was totally ignored. And then I sent an email and they responded and I got a meeting with them. And from there, we have bid together for quite a few schemes, trying to buy land off councils to build 700 new homes, 400 new homes. So we're about to start delivering a scheme together. It was just the email I sent, the last email when I got the meeting, I sent it at the right time. It was a time when the managing director read it and thought, Nicola can help me with something. He'd got those emails in the past and it hadn't been of interest what I was offering to him. So don't give up. You can't give up. You've got to carry on, not pestering people. You've got to do it in a particular way, but you've got to be prepared to get ignored, get rejected, but to keep going. And you've got to be organised. You have got to organise your day. I'll be in the, less so over the last 2 years to be fair, but you'll be in the car travelling from one meeting. You've got to be setting up your next meeting with clients. It's not just about new clients, it's about keeping in touch with the clients that you're working with, making sure they're happy with the service that you're delivering. With business development, it's great when you win work with a new client. Once you've got that work, if you don't deliver well, if you deliver a poor quality service, you will not get work with them again. So it's really important that you continue to speak to clients to find out whether they're happy with the service you're providing. And if you're not, you have to go away and do something about it. You need to speak to the delivery teams and make sure that they get back on track. So again, it's about communicating with lots of people, different people at different levels. And so now, why business development and how? Why business development? Every day is different. I am speaking to different people internally and externally. I'm learning new things every day, so I'm constantly growing and developing. It's massively rewarding. You're helping to grow a business. You're helping to keep people in jobs at the end of the day. And there is nothing like, as I say, you send an email, you get a meeting, you win some work, you deliver well, you win more work. It is really rewarding. You're meeting lots of people and you're helping lots of people. That's the key part of business development. We're not selling, we're just showing people how we can help them. You can be very flexible. Say you're self-motivated and you're managing your own time. So you've got that flexibility to manage your own diary. So for example, we've got an office in Salford. I live in Liverpool. I don't go into the Salford office till 10 o'clock. I don't go on the motorway until 9 o'clock. I've got that ability to manage my diary and manage my time. With business development, you're not limited to one sector or one industry. So I work in construction. There's business development roles in pretty much every industry, and you can earn a really good salary. I worked with someone who was one of the best business development people I ever knew. He worked for a really large organisation. He was earning, I don't know what he was earning, but I know it was hundreds of thousands of pounds. He was earning a lot of money. He decided to leave it on the basis he didn't have enough time with his family. So it's sort of, you've got to decide what's important to you. But in business development, there is lots of opportunities to work in different sectors and to earn a really good salary. So how do you do it? There is no set course. As I say, I've built up my qualifications as I've gone along, so I didn't do a degree, but you can go into a degree. But it's looking at management courses, business courses, marketing courses. They're the best ones for you to look at. And when I applied for my jobs, that's what they were looking for, management and marketing. Speak to people, build a network. Business development is all about who you know and not what you know. If people know who you are, they will go to you for solutions. So speaking to people, building a network, and as part of that, be friendly, be outgoing, go out of your way to help people inside and outside of your organisation. Be that person where people think, well, for me, Nicola is reliable, she's trustworthy, she'll deliver on what she says, and a team deliver on what they say. So that is sort of the best advice I can give in terms of business development. People tend to fall into business development, as I did. But if you look at those qualifications, they'll put you in good stead if you choose a career in business development. So in summary, so we've covered EQUANS, what we do as a company, as a contractor, my journey, so how I've got to my role as business development at EQUANS, what business development is in terms of relationships, managing relationships with people, finding opportunities, winning work, growing the business. The skills that you need for business development, a lot linked to your English and what you learn in English. So it's around your listening, it's around how you communicate with people verbally and in writing, about being organised, self-motivated. And we covered why business development and how you can get into a business development career if you choose to. And I think that takes us quite nicely to questions. So Jamie is going to facilitate the questions. Sorry, I thought I missed something then. But whilst people are thinking of questions, we've got a bit of a test. So this is to test your memory, but also to test your listening skills, which, as we said, is a key skill for business development. So I started from the very beginning of the presentation. If you know the answer to any of those questions, please feel free to put it into the chat box and Jamie will give you a shout out. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening. I do hope you've got something out of it. Apologies for my voice, losing my voice halfway through it. Good thing though, you didn't have to listen to my dogs barking. Jamie, can I hand over to you, please?
Thank you ever so much, Nicola. That was a really, really informative talk. So much in there. Thank you so much for letting us know about your history and how you got into it as well, how you got into the role. I will leave the quiz up there. As Nicola says, if anybody wants to answer any of those questions, do drop it in the chat and I'll let you know if you got those answers right. Teachers, if you have any feedback about today's session, I've just dropped a feedback form in the chat, so please do take a couple of minutes to fill that out. Let us know what you thought of the session today. But we do have about 15 minutes left for any questions for Nicola, and I know some of you will have questions, so please do drop them in the chat and I will put your questions to Nicola. Nicola, I'm going to just give you a quick question to start us off. So I'm so glad that you spoke today about business development in the construction industry, because when a lot of people think about construction, they think about bricklaying and being a bricklayer, and that's what being in construction is. But your role is an integral part of construction. The bricklaying couldn't happen without your role. You know, your role winning that work is where it all starts. So could you talk a little bit about kind of the whole thing and what sort of other roles are there in construction? Would you be able to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so thanks, Jamie. Yeah, in terms of construction, there is obviously the trade roles. Then you've got site managers who are working on site. You've got project officers. You've got project managers. Then you've got quantity surveyors. So the people that are doing the numbers side of things. So obviously when you price for a job, for example, if it's installing kitchens rather than building a new house, let's think about existing homes. If you're installing a kitchen, obviously we put a price forward to the client for that, how much it's going to cost. We have to have someone monitoring how much has it actually cost us to put in that kitchen, how much were the materials, how much was it for the person doing the job, and making sure we're not losing any money. You've got HR roles, so people who are in human resources, who are recruiting people, which is an absolute key part. You've got to recruit the right people and keep the right people. So in terms of the employee benefits, to keep people working for your organisation, because in construction, quite often you'll find that people will move on, they'll follow the money, particularly when it's the business is booming like it is at the moment. So you don't want to lose your good people. So what are the benefits that you can offer to employees? So there's roles in human resources. Then you've got your accounts people, which again would be in any organisation managing the financials of the business. We've got them in construction. You've got the people who do the design, so that when you're looking at new homes, the architecture, the designing of new homes. So there's a huge number of roles, and you know, some people, they want to be out there, they want to be in the cold building the houses. Some people want to be in and out of people's homes, fixing the leaky taps or installing the new kitchens for them. Some people don't. Some people want to be doing the design element in the office, designing the homes. Other people want to be monitoring that, so we've got to have people checking, doing the quality checks. So there's a huge diverse amount of roles in construction. So if you don't want to be working out in the cold and you prefer an office environment, there's plenty of those jobs as well.
Fantastic, thank you ever so much. And it's really good to know. I think you mentioned improving the environmental impacts of buildings, and you know, it's wonderful that you can get involved in that and help, you know, reduce climate change with all those different roles. You can be involved in all those different skills. Okay, I've dropped Nicola's quiz questions into the chat so you can see them there if you want to have a go at answering those. Nicola, you talked about how important communication skills are in your work. I was wondering if you could tell us when, or where did you learn these skills?
A lot. Well, it starts in school. You don't know it at the time. You're just doing a English GCSE or an English A-level, so you don't realise it, but you are learning the skills. Then I suppose you're learning the skills for communication all the time. When I am not good with social media, that's one of my biggest weaknesses. But I know my daughter, my son, for example, that's one of their strengths, because they're doing social media all the time. So even though they're doing that as a social thing, that is actually a communication method, and they're learning through doing that. But then it's through the different jobs that have been given. So when you're managing people, you're learning how to communicate with people to get the best out of them. When you're talking to a client, who you want to learn more about. You communicate it in a certain way. So for some clients, you will put a presentation together. Some clients, you want to keep it very informal. It will depend on the person that you're meeting, and you need to try and understand them before you have that meeting, which is sometimes difficult. Then it's about grabbing opportunities. So when you're asked to do a presentation in front of a group of organisations, it's scary. It's really, when you stand in front of people and you've got to talk, but it's about taking those opportunities because you'll learn from them and getting feedback from people. So it's not nice getting negative feedback, but it is constructive feedback and it helps you to develop. So hopefully I didn't do it today, but maybe I did, where I tend to talk quite fast. So I actually have wrote down on a piece of paper, which is in front of me, slow down, because I do talk quite fast sometimes, particularly if I'm looking at the clock and conscious I've got to get through a certain amount of information. So it's taking feedback from people, putting yourself in situations where you don't feel comfortable, talking to as many people as you can, taking the opportunity to write reports, even if you don't feel comfortable doing that. It's just taking advantage of opportunities when they come along and communicating with as many people as you can.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And I like what you say there about putting yourself in positions that you're not comfortable with, because I think it is important to try and challenge yourself. And that's how you learn new things and learn new skills. And I've heard it said that it's good to be outside your comfort zone, but not in your panic zone, and finding that sweet spot. And that's where you learn new skills and have new experiences. Okay, you said you didn't know about business development until you're about 29. What would you say to a young person who has absolutely no idea what they want to do with their job and with their life at the moment?
What was this? In terms of business development, or just generally? Is this?
Just generally.
I think.
What would you say to your younger self? How about that? What would you say to your younger self?
Well, what I'm saying to my daughter, who's 14 and just choosing her options now, and she doesn't know what she wants to do. She's not clear. What my advice has been to her is, when choosing your options, and then when she's going on to look at college, do something you enjoy. Because if it's something that you enjoy, then you're likely to do well at it. You're going to put more effort into it, but also keep it so it's something that can apply to lots of different jobs. So, for example, PE is something that she's interested in. So I've said, well, that's great, because PE can open the door, learning about the body, and it can open the door to lots of different avenues. So you don't need to have a clear idea of what you want to do, but follow subjects that you enjoy and won't close the door too much. So I think another thing one of her friends have said, and this is fine, but they've gone for very specific. So I think photography and something else, which is a very specific. For Beth, that wouldn't have been right, because she doesn't want to go into photography. So it would have almost been, and she's not really enjoying it, so it would have been a GCSE for the sake of it. So it's really about choosing qualifications that you enjoy and that will open the door for lots of opportunities as you sort of find out what you want to do.
Can I ask what GCSEs and A-levels you chose?
Oh, I've got to remember now, haven't I? GCSE. So I didn't have as much choice as what they have now, but I did 3 sciences, obviously maths, English. I chose history over geography, and to be honest, if I was to choose again, I wouldn't do that, because I think geography would have been probably, I think it would have been more relevant. I would have had a better understanding. My geography is awful, and I think, you know, in terms of knowing where you are in the world and just understanding about the world, that might have been more useful. But on saying that, I enjoyed history at the time, so I followed the advice I'm giving my daughter. I enjoyed history, so that's why I went for it. French, I avoided PE, because I didn't want to do PE. I avoided art. Design technology as well. And interestingly, when I was in school, I was put forward for, I can't remember what it's called now, but it was to do with women in construction, and was sent to London to meet Zoe Ball. For anyone who knows Zoe Ball and Johnny Ball, my claim to fame. And it's funny that I've ended up in construction, you know, years on.
That's really, really interesting. I'd like to touch on the fact that you didn't go to university, and lots of young people do choose to go to university, but it's not the right option for everybody, you know. And so what led you to that decision, and what do you think you got out of it?
I think for me, it was my personal situation. I think I don't know whether I should say this with obviously students on, but I think university for me was almost, yes, it was the qualification specific to journalism, and I had decided that wasn't the path for me. But also for me, university was going for a big party. And then obviously at that time I'd met my husband to be, and that sort of big party scene became less important, and I'd already started thinking about the future quite early on and sort of settling down. So probably without me knowing it, my motivation then was around getting a career and not building up what I seen as debt through university, because I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do. So it was really, I was ready just to be in the world of work and explore what the opportunities were. And I didn't feel applying for university was right for me at that time.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and thank you for your very honest answer. We should point out university isn't a massive party to any young people listening. No, but it's you know, you can learn a lot from a university degree, but as you said, it's not the only path that's available. There are lots and lots of other options and pathways available, and it's not right for everybody.
I think it depends, doesn't it, on the career. I mean, there's certain career paths that you have to go to university, and I think that's quite right. And I think now, because obviously there's lots of costs and things associated with university, you need to know what you're going to get out of it at the end of it, and it definitely isn't one big party, and I'm telling my daughter that daily.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I'd just like to touch on something that you said, which I thought was really quite important, actually, which was the idea of resilience and how important resilience is in the world of work, because we all in jobs come up against challenges and problems and failures. We all get things wrong sometimes, and I don't know, really, I'm just wondering if you could speak a little more about that, or perhaps what would you say to a young person who perhaps isn't feeling very resilient at the moment and is finding things like exams quite challenging?
Talk to people. That is my key. I've got a couple of people that if I'm feeling down, if we've had quite a few clients that have cancelled meetings on me, or bad things have gone wrong, I've got a couple of people who I know I can call on, I can let off steam, and then I just feel much better for doing that, and it'll help me to pick myself up and start again. Also, I was on a thing the other day about mantras. So if you can say mantras to yourself, if you set up your own mantra, like I can do this, or just something really positive that you can say to yourself. It won't work for some people, but for me, actually, that can be quite helpful. Okay, that hasn't worked. You can't do anything about it. That what's gone wrong has gone wrong. Learn from it. Let's move onwards and find something that does work.
Yeah. And I think it's good what you mentioned before as well, the fact that resilience is a skill. It is something that you have to learn and practice and get better at. We're not born with it. Okay, I think we are out of time. Nicola, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone for listening. Absolutely. Yes, thank you to all of who've been watching today. Thank you for your attention. We hope that you found this session informative and useful. Don't forget, you can find out lots more information about careers and options on the GMACS website. That's gmacs.co.uk. Teachers, please do let us know what you thought about the session today by filling in our short feedback form, which you can find in the chat. So on behalf of Nicola and myself, thank you again for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of National Careers Week. Goodbye.